All right, ex-Amway distributors finally win big. Why would somebody stay in a business for 14 years and not make any money? Why would somebody do that? Okay, I want to talk a little bit about my story because that's me. Okay, first thing I want to say though is I've got to say, for 14 years in the business, the Amway business is a really hard business to build, and it's an even harder business to hold together. Okay. And if I can say this, I'm going to segue real quick. Our company, Janess Global, has been in business just over 10 years. They have 17 of the top income earners in the industry on that list. So 17% of it after 10 years, which is amazing. So think about that as we talk about this. So why would I stay in the business for 10 years? Well, this was kind of my introduction to network marketing. And I'd been approached years ago, back in like the early 80s, by coworkers, but it was always one of those things, I can't tell you what it is. And you show up at this meeting and, everybody's drinking beer and smoking pot. And you're like, I don't get what this is about. And they want to hold a meeting at your house. And you're like going, wait a minute, So when I finally look at this, our neighbor ended up being our sponsors. They're still in the business. And I think it was the first time, guys, where I really got a dream. I was kind of just starting out in my insurance agency, but it was the first time somebody said, you could be financially independent. And it's like, wow, at 31, it's like, really? Okay. So I think my dream was really, really instrumental in keeping me in and having a dream and realizing, I could work for and try to create financial independence. We're going to get there over a 14-year period. At some point, come to realize, it ain't going to happen here. But my dream was so strong to hold me in.
That's funny. I saw the same thing, and it didn't matter if you saw it at 31 or you saw it at 19 like I did. We saw something that we had never been shown before, right? And the thing that you just said was, hey, I could be financially independent. That's absolutely true. Anybody can become financially independent, but you have to have the right things going for you. And I love that you have a 14-year journey in figuring out, hey, yeah, it's still true. This just ain't going to get me there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because for me early on, and for Ashley early on, it was like, okay, I'm going to go do everything they're telling me to do. And we did that. And when it didn't work, they always had a reason for why it didn't work. And usually they would put it on us and tell us it was our fault it wasn't working, which was a lie, right?
Yes. Part of it, when I got in, there was a lot of high caliber people up here in the Seattle area. I mean, I'm talking attorneys, mortgage bankers, people in the entertainment industry. There's some really big names. And you're going, well, why is this guy who's an successful attorney or this person, why would they be involved in the business? And that really got into my psyche, where you're going, okay, this person, that person is in this business, so it's got to be legit. But when I talk about the not wanting to fail, is you start getting in and you're taught the 10 steps of core. I could still recite those. I think I'm not going to, but you don't want to fail, and you're taught. And we talk about it too. Failure. And I talked about this last week, but failure. We're really taught to not fail in our school system, in our jobs, of being brought up. That failure's not. You can't do that. You don't want to fail. You want to be perfect. But when you get into business, you realize failure is an integral part of success. So when you get into business, you hear, hey, the only way you can fail is, guess what?
If you quit.
So, okay, well, I don't want to quit. Okay, I'm not core. I'm not really showing the plan, but I'm going to the functions, going to the major functions. So that's kind of your life raft to keep you in the business there. If I just don't quit, I've still got a chance. So I'm not going to fail.
It's funny because you and I, we started to succeed after we quit. True?
Yeah, very much so.
Man, anybody that's watching this, Brad and I, we wanted to put this series together. And this is my wife, Ashley, by the way.
Hello.
She's got a really awesome Amway story. We'll get into that. Maybe not on this one, but on the next one. We wanted to do this because there's so many amazing people that can win and want to win and are willing to go start a business and work at it and learn it and succeed. But if you're stuck in the wrong place, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You are being coerced into staying in something that Brad and I both have been through that we know for a fact is never going to equate to the dream lifestyle that you want. We just saw that, hey, we know how to do this thing. We just need the right vehicle to go get it done and not act like weirdos along the way. And Brad, it worked for us and it continues to work for us in what we currently do, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was one of the other things too, if I kind of wedge this in there, is that, if you're not doing it, well, of course they always go, well, you're not core, look at the 10 steps of core. So you must not be core. But if it's not that, then it's just you need to work on yourself somewhere, somehow you're missing. And I got to the point, I won't say quite to the point of thinking about suicide, but just in despair, because I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why isn't this working? And I even at a point in my life, I gave, because I didn't meet a goal that I set, my oldest daughter, I gave her permission to chew me out about it. Now that's twisted. I'll be nice about it. That there's something definitely wrong when your young, I think barely teenage daughter gets to chew you out about not accomplishing a goal. You're still working your butt off over here because you didn't hit a goal in the business. She gets the privilege of chewing you out, and that's so wrong. It took a long time to rebuild that trust. I think we're there, but that's so off center. I can't even begin to describe.
Man, I'll tell you what, there are some people that need to hear what you just said, and hopefully the right people do come across this, because what Brad and I want to deliver here is not a bash on an opportunity. It's a message of hope, because there is not just hope out there. Man, there's a better way, right? And one reason that I know for a fact in 14 years you didn't quit was you had a dream and you didn't want to fail. And I was in the same boat. Now, your dream was your dream. It was not Amway's dream. It was your dream, right? So, I would love to actually hear some of your story about your dream and just not wanting to fail. And ultimately, that's it.
Here's where some of it came in. There was always, I don't know how I would put this, a tension under the surface when I'm trying to comprehend what I'm being taught, what I'm seeing people do, and they're saying they're living this lifestyle, debt-free, cash. And I could tell some stories maybe later about that's not really the case. Actually, in my insurance agency, I insured my upline diamond. I could tell you some stories about that would boggle your mind. But my dream, I started realizing, I really had my dream initially again was to be financially independent, have enough money that I could get involved in the ministry. But what I saw was Amway was so all-consuming that I'm kind of going, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I'm going to be so consumed with Amway, the Amway lifestyle, and going to all these Amway events, that can I really just have the income come in and then go off and do what I want? And that's where there was a lot of tension with what my dream was and what the business was directing us to believe. Basically, everything, the business becomes all consuming in a lot of ways.
That, man, and that's so true. Now, for Ashley, I would just ask you a question. She'll be speaking a lot next week or in the coming weeks. What was it that, and this probably came from the upline ladies, made you feel like you had to stay?
What was it that made me feel like I had to stay?
Because they did a good job of making Brad and I feel like we had to stay. And I know you have, from a woman's perspective, it happens.
I think for me, it was just the fact that my life would, while it would, look different outside of the Amway, organization, if I quit, it was kind of what felt like a bit of a guilt trip. And it was like, you cannot make it in your life without us. And as a young woman, very impressionable young woman, that was a weight. And to say that to someone, I would never say that to someone today in our business. I just don't feel like that's responsible. And to say that to, a person of like, you're going to go out there and fail in the world. I knew myself well enough to know, like, I have success principles that I have had instilled in me because of that business. I've learned so much from it. But me, Ashley, winning in her life and succeeding in her life was not dependent on me staying in Amway. I knew that I could be successful outside of the organization if I was called out and there was a path that was led for me, I could, and we have. I'm so grateful for that.
Mhm.
So, there does come a time where it feels like, I wish that they would have wished me well instead of the opposite, which felt like
Yeah.
you're never going to make it without us.
Now,
Yeah.
we're going to hold off on your particular story for another segment because it's pretty powerful. Anybody watching this, you're going to want to watch the segment that Ashley does with her Amway story, where she started, what her life looked like, and what has transformed after leaving Amway. So we didn't want to quit, and I agree, because we had a dream that we thought was totally hinged to this company. We didn't want to fail, obviously, because we love to win. The relationships for me, because this is another thing that you and I have talked about, I didn't like the relationships I had in Amway, and actually broke those relationships before I left the entire company.
You're a rebel, Adam.
I know I was kind of a rebel. What did that look like for you?
Well, I want to go back and address something Ashley said, this whole not wanting to fail. I was so entrenched in the teaching mentality that I honestly believed I couldn't be successful doing something else. In America in the 1990s, early 2000s, the only viable opportunity for Brad Krantz was in the Amway business. I mean, our upline, I think Double Diamond at the time, would trash the stock market, saying, I don't have a dime in the stock market. Now I look in that and go, that's ridiculous to even say that. I mean, why would you tell somebody that, like, you've got so much money coming in, you don't have any money in the stock market?
Right.
Where are you putting it in? You're putting it under your bed or in a bank account? I mean, some of those things, but I didn't believe I had any other option to pursue for success. And that's what one of the other things that kept me in, because I didn't see that I had any other option. My insurance business, I was struggling with that because I'm trying to balance two things, and Amway's like all consuming, but I didn't think I had any other options. So the relationships really come in key here. We have a lot of good relationships. We still have some relationships with people in the business, but it really is a love bombing type of thing, which is almost, I'll say it, almost a cultic type behavior, where you just get bombed with love and you're in this accepting group, and you don't want to leave that group, because then you're going to be the guy that left.
Yep.
Okay. And you're leaving these relationships. Again, you have spent 14 years of your life together. All of a sudden, it's kind of like you're getting a divorce. You're walking away from this. Yes. And emotionally, that was really tough. I probably should have done it years before, but you just feel like you have these tentacles that you're pulled in. You can't leave this opportunity. What about all the relationships you've built?
Amen to that. Now, one thing I want everybody to note is we maybe did a 2-part opening series because, and I hope this is okay with you, Brad, the Amway journey and our Amway stories are so multifaceted that we're going to start to break these down. And I kind of had an idea that we would just talk about our stories until we had it all out. And so what we just talked about was some things that we're going to be breaking down in future weeks. And you can just explain what those things are if we want to go week by week. I have no problem, like I said, having a 2-part opening series. But if you want to break down what you want to talk about week to week, and we've got 5 topics, and then we're going to have some segues probably on them.
Sure.
So if you're cool with that, just break down what we're going to talk about here over the next several weeks. And anybody that wants to chime in and connect with us, I'll have a phone conversation with you if you're currently in, or Brad absolutely will too.
Yeah, I think we can there's a lot of things we could address. If you follow some of the blogs out there, people that have been in the business. I know a guy that was in, he's not really writing it about it at this point, but he was very, very successful outside the Amway business. And that's when I really started to realize that there's something that wasn't quite right. We thought we had the best compensation plan. And I'll state this up front too. I have no problem with the Amway Corporation itself. Great company, solid, debt-free as far as I know. The principles of the company, but the real problem, and I think we'll probably spend some time talking more about this, is the motivational organizations. You were in an East Coast one. We were pretty much in a West Coast one. But that's where I think the real issues in Amway started to occur. It wasn't the company, and again, I don't have a problem with the company, but the teachings of the motivational organizations and how they made their money and what they taught people. I think that's where things kind of diverge between reality and a defined reality by these organizations. So maybe we'll spend some time talking about the motivational organizations, especially on your story, Adam.
I think what's going to come down to is we're going to talk about our dreams, and we can talk about them in depth and when we started to dream. Not wanting to fail, I think, is going to be a huge segment why we say, because we didn't want to fail. And Brad just kind of enlightened you guys on that. And so did Ashley. Like, they made you feel like you were going to fail if you weren't an Amway Diamond, you were going to fail. Nothing else works.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Nobody else is successful out there.
Yeah, it's the only way, right? Because of the relationships and the different, we're not genuine relationships, but for some reason the relationships would hold you in. Like you said, Brad had done some insurance things with his upline Diamond. His neighbor sponsored him. Those type of relationships would hold people in. Fear of loss, because of everything they put into us, we felt like we were going to lose everything. Because, by the way, we walked away from all of our friends and family to be involved with the Amway cult, honestly, to a certain extent.
Pretty much.
We don't want to lose that. And then 5 would be finally facing reality. Okay, what does reality look like? We made some big decisions getting involved in Amway and staying in Amway. This is where I want her to talk. Facing reality of what it looks like afterward based on where you positioned yourself because you were a part of that. So I want to talk about those things in depth, and hopefully it's okay if we have a 2-part opening series, because what I want to do is I want to start some conversations in the chat thread. I'd like to talk one-on-one on the phone with any Amway people. I would love to hop on Zoom with you. Hey, bring your upline Diamond on. Would love to say hey to them. I think we'd have a lot of cool stuff to talk about together. Wink. But for real. So, Brad, hopefully this was okay. I know we when we start diving into this thing, we just kind of start talking. You'll notice about the way Brad and I do business. It's pretty open. There's no secrets. It's no holds bar. We just talk and help, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? Because this is an Amway question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's what they ask you. Now, compared to when you answered that in Amway, where do you see yourself in 5 years, to what we do now, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What would the difference be there?
This opportunity is much more realistic. We've got a way better company, way more solid compensation plan. I think a more transparent upline, and an upline that's really a servant leader. We're not being fed the BS about, oh, we care about you guys, but yeah, we don't want to tell you that we're making money on the books, the tapes at the time, and the functions, which I'm assuming that's still where a large part of the money is made. But interestingly, none of the Worldwide's had a lot of diamonds fought. I kind of did a little bit of checking on this week. There's a lot of diamonds. They have, I want to say it's 17 or 20 current diamonds in Worldwide. Now that's about where it was, or actually even less than when I left in 2005. And again, none of those diamonds or double diamonds or even crowns are on the top 100 earners list in this industry. That should say something. Okay, if it's such a good opportunity, there's so much money in the opportunity, and these guys, except for Dexter Yeager, who ranks up, why aren't your leaders in that top list? Because our leader is Calvin Becerra, is number 11.
Yep, that's kind of crazy, huh? It's funny. They always told us to stay off the internet. Don't go do your own research. Let us give you all the information. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, the internet's the bathroom wall of the world, so you don't want to go there. But yeah, there's a lot of junk there, but there's also a lot of truth. You start seeing stories from other people, and you go, wow, okay, that's where I see myself. So yeah, that whole break, getting out of it, I kind of really felt drained when I left, but it was almost a good feeling. I'd finally, I had my family pleading with me to get out of this. I'd told for a while, yeah, we're out, and I'm not really. Then finally, when I did, it was like, it was a relief. But then you're like, okay, now what? Because so much of my, again, emotional baggage and all that was wrapped up around my relationships with my upline and cross line and all that, going to the, weekly plans, the monthly functions, the major functions, and all of a sudden you're not doing that anymore.
Yep. Oh man. Well, guys, we'll see you here on the next segment as we continue to dive into this thing. If you have any questions, reach out to Brad, reach out to Ashley and I. Let's have some conversations. Listen, we're about helping people win and helping people really realize their dreams. And there's a reason we didn't leave this industry after Amway. It wasn't the industry's fault. Okay. And there's a better way. We believe in you. Talk to you soon.